Hello again. This week's video is my first impressions of the Olympus Pen F digital camera, and I took it on an outing to Chester, but I wanted to just give you a little bit of a heads up because some of the lighting in the precincts and shopping areas in Chester was giving a gentle sort of strobing effect on the video, and if anybody does suffer from that, just wanted to give you a heads up. I'll talk to you again after the video. Hello again and welcome to Chester. This is a walk that I used to do 5 days a week back in the 70s. I would normally get here by train, sometimes I'd drive, but on most occasions when I was coming on the train, this would be my walk into work. And if I just pan you around slightly, you can see that we are up on the world famous rows here in Chester, and the rows date back to medieval times. They form a complete upper level of access to the shops and businesses up here. I think I'm right in saying it's the only city in the country that still have rows. I think it's unique. We've just walked up past the very famous Eastgate clock. And we're just approaching Chester Cross, so I'll try and give you a better view of that now. There we are, that's Chester Cross. This is normally where the town crier comes and gives his proclamations. You can see across the way there in Watergate Street the rows continue along. And looking down Bridge Street, you can see that they go all the way along. Beautiful half-timbered buildings, many of which have been reconstructed over the years, but nevertheless the majority are 17th and early 18th century. Just stupendous architecture in this city. And just around the corner from here is the camera shop that I used to manage. Let's see what it looks like in 2023. Good to call in at the old shop. The layout is exactly the same as it was back in the 70s, which is no great surprise because of course all these buildings are listed and at least grade 2 listed buildings. But nevertheless it was great to walk back in, have a chat to the lads that work there now. Across the way, over yonder, is St Michael's Row, or St Michael's Arcade as I used to call it, and sadly I was prevented from doing any video in there by one of the security guards, privately owned by the Duke of Westminster. Anyway, there you go. What can you do? Argue and then get thrown out? But we took some stills in there. Today the whole point of me coming to Chester is to give you a first look at the Olympus Pen F, which is my latest acquisition, and to start to put it through its paces. I'll give you a more in-depth sort of review of it, if you like, when I get back home, because I can talk you through the pros and cons, if you like. But for now I'm going to concentrate on doing something which I think anyway the Pen F is really designed for. It's a bit of street photography. These narrow little passageways in Chester, some of which are more photogenic than others. And this one certainly isn't the most photogenic. Welcome to Green Lane. In time to find another one of Chester's hidden little gems. This one is Godstall Lane. At least we have shops and restaurants down here. A bit better than Green Lane. And this takes us through to the cathedral. there we are. Hope you enjoyed that sort of whistle-stop tour around Chester city centre. The Olympus Pen F. It's a camera that I've had my eye on for quite some time, but the majority of them have been, to my budget anyway, too expensive. And it wasn't until I took a walk into Liverpool city centre to my local camera store, Wilkinson's Cameras, that I saw this particular example. And for those of you that don't know, Wilkinson's are a family-run chain of retail photographic shops, and they have various outlets across the northwest of England. My local one, as I say, is Liverpool. And lo and behold, I just walked in there, they had this one. And I looked on their website on the internet, and according to the website, it was a well-used example. Now, having looked at it, that made my ears prick up, because it didn't look to me like a particularly well-used example. And I think they've done themselves out of a little bit of money, to be honest with you. Yes, it is marked up, mainly on the base. Just a few light scratches, nothing to worry about. And then I was thinking, well, I wonder if they say it's well used because of the number of shots it's taken. I had to take a little bit of a gamble. I didn't want to go through the procedure of accessing the shutter actuations in the shop. I thought that would have been pushing it a little bit too much. But I did take the plunge, bought it, and lo and behold, when I got back home and looked, it's done less than 20,000 shutter actuations, which is about 10% of the expected lifespan of the shutter mech. So very, very happy with it. The lens that I'm using on it, and the lens that I've used through that entire Chester sequence, is the little Panasonic 14mm pancake lens. I could have taken the 25mm Leica Summilux, which is what's filming this, but it just felt that little bit too bulky on this particular camera body. It's perfect on an EM1, no problem at all, but on this I just felt it looked a little bit ungainly. So 14mm. And of course, for me, street photography, the wider angle is better for me, to be honest with you. I've actually got the 17mm Olympus 2.8, not the 1.8. That's coming to me. I've ordered it from Japan, so goodness only knows when and if it's going to turn up. Fingers crossed. Anyway, enough of that. Wilkinson's did me a very good deal on this. Very, very pleased. What do I think of the camera? Initial impressions are, as I expected, fantastic. It's very much a stills oriented camera, if I can put it that way. Yes, it will do video. I think, in all honesty, I'd rather use the EM1 Mark II for any video work, but it does have video capability. The controls are Fuji-esque in as much as you have got an analog dial on the top plate for exposure compensation. You have got 4 different program modes on the main command dial, which I have set up specifically for the first program mode. I have set for aperture priority, auto ISO, which is the sort of mode that I tend to shoot in most often, to be honest with you. But then C2, the command program number 2, I've set that up so that I can dial in, and this is a little bit again where it becomes sort of Fuji-esque. Apologies to Olympus for mentioning the competition, but on the front of the camera it has a creative dial, I think Olympus call it, and when you set it to one of the various modes, in this case colour, you can dial in very precisely what alterations you think you would like to give your film look to. So I have programmed command dial program number 2 to give me a Kodachrome equivalent, and I'll put some comparisons up for you now, one straight out of camera and the other one with it set to the Kodachrome settings. It's very, very precise, and each one can be tailored precisely to your own requirements. It's not quite the same as Fuji, sorry Fuji, but in this case your JPEGs, and we are talking purely JPEG images here, the JPEGs can be fine-tuned to exactly give you the look that you want. What else have we got going on this thing? In case you're wondering, this little hole on the front here is nothing to do with rangefinder. It's a rangefinder style camera, of course. This is the self-timer blinking light that goes on when you're wanting to do selfies. It has an EVF, which is brilliant. It shares the same sensor, the 20.3 whatever it is megapixel sensor, as the EM1 Mark II, and it has a fully articulating screen on the back, which I nearly always leave with the blank side facing out so it doesn't get damaged. The usual layout of the D-pad on the back, but it has that traditional look. It has echoes of early Leicas, with where this would have been the slow speed dial on the front of the camera. Of course now it's this creative dial. This little window up here is reminiscent of rangefinder windows, and even the main on-off switch on top of the camera looks remarkably like a film rewind knob, again from Leica and indeed Russian copies. So it has all the benefits to me of a retro styled camera with a lot of features packed into it. Two of the facilities which I've never bothered with up until now are live time and live comp. Live time, I've done a little image of a still life for you to have a look at. It's basically so that you can paint with light, you can add light into your subject areas as you see fit, and once the days start shortening over here in the UK, I'm wanting to get out in the evenings and do some more creative work using that lifetime facility. Negatives, there's always going to be some negatives with regard to photography, forgive the pun. The most annoying thing about this is how difficult it is to get access to the screen. I didn't find it until the other day, but there's an indentation part way along the bottom which you can hook your fingers into, which is rather nice to have. But otherwise it's a little bit tricky to get hold of it at the side. That's a niggly thing. Is that the only thing I've found wrong with it? Well, you could say you're going back to single card slot camera. Access to the card is through the base. Okay, it takes the same battery as the original EM1 Mark I. So, you know, niggling little things like that, but they're nothing in the great scheme of things. Overall, am I pleased with it? Definitely. Huge thanks to Wilkinson's for giving me a good deal on this, and I'm looking forward to producing more work with it in the future. I'll give you a more in-depth reaction to it in a few months' time when I've had the chance to really get to grips with it, maybe try out that lifetime facility in the evenings. But for now, doesn't matter what camera you're using, I really do hope you enjoy your photography, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.